It's with a heavy heart today that I announce that this will be my last podcast ever. I'm hanging it all up. No more podcasts, no more YouTube on this first day of April, which is April Fool's Day. Just kidding. Just April Fool's joke. But seriously, today we rejoice because President Donald Trump has done, in my count, well, maybe it's fourth or fifth good move for the pro-life agenda in America. And if you watch the Dr. Taylor Marshall podcast, I'm Taylor Marshall, you know that I am sometimes critical of Donald Trump, in particular about IVF and other such statements, but I'm also optimistic as he grows in his understanding of human life, the sacredness of human life. Of course, grateful for the overturning of Roe v. Wade. And today, we see the Trump administration has frozen $27.5 million to Planned Parenthood of their, as far as we can tell, $200 million budget. So what's going on today? We're going to look at that. Before I do, though, I want to share with you some of the good things that Trump has done in this regard. And the first is when he became president the second time, he reinstated the Hyde Amendment. What is the Hyde Amendment? The Hyde Amendment forbids taxpayer funds, federal money, from directly subsidizing elective abortions. That's a really good thing. Secondly, he reversed the Mexico City policy. What's the Mexico City policy? This new move forbids non-governmental organizations from using taxpayer dollars for elective abortions overseas, outside our borders. Did you know that under Obama and Biden, and they're taking your taxpayer money and sending it to other countries to subsidize elective abortions? All right. So that has been overturned. And then also he's cut millions of subsidies because of violations or irresponsible activities under USAID, the U.S. Agency for International Development. So those are three good moves. The fourth good move is that he pardoned many pro-lifers who were literally rotting in jail cells, including Jean Marshall. I heard her speak at Mar-a-Lago a couple weeks ago. As far as I know, she and I are not related, but she is an older woman who was in prison for praying outside a clinic. And the liberal judge gave her, I can't recall, I think it's 5 years. The judge gave this elderly old woman who was being peaceful. And Trump pardoned all of them, including Father Fidelis, who was also in a prison, many others. So that's a good one. And then today we come, I think, to the fifth, and there might be more, but to my count, the fifth, and that is freezing this money to Planned Parenthood. And this time, I'm going to share the news story from Politico, which is a liberal, definitely a liberal journalist perspective. I'll say that. It leads off in this article saying, let's see, I'm off center here. Let's fix this. One moment, please. Technical difficulty. There we go. Fixed it. The Politico article says the Trump administration is withholding tens of millions of dollars from Planned Parenthood clinics that provide, quote, contraception, sexually transmitted infection testing, and other health services to low-income Americans. Oh, how noble, Politico. You left out the main thing that Planned Parenthood does, which is the A word. You're just coming here like, oh, they get contraception, which, by the way, is evil, STD testing, and other health services. Are you going to talk maybe about how they were also harvesting and trafficking in embryonic body parts? No, you're not going to mention that. Why? Because you're Politico. It says 9 Planned Parenthood state affiliates that receive federal money from the 55-year-old Title X family planning program got notices Monday, that's yesterday, which they shared with Politico, informing them that their funding is being temporarily withheld. The notice pointed to possible violations of federal civil rights law and President Donald Trump's executive orders, including prohibitions on promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion, and taxpayer subsidization of open borders. So that's what's going on. As you may know, in the industry of terminating the unborn, in that industry, there are controversial procedural elements, such as bringing young people, underage people. There was a controversy a few years ago where there were men who were trafficking younger women, who were bringing them there. It seems, allegedly, that the staff, the nurses, the so-called doctors, knew that these young women were being trafficked, but their handlers, I'll use that word, handlers, who were adult men, were paying for these procedures, and it was very clear what was going on. Well, also part of that, now the investigation from the Trump administration is looking into what's going on the borders. And we have coyotes. I refer to coyotes. In Texas, we all know what coyotes are. Yes, they're like a feral, evil dog that comes and tries to eat your lambs and your calves, okay? But also in Texas and in Mexico, coyotes are the men who are, or I guess they could be women, who are trafficking human beings over the border. Part of that trafficking, it's not just like, you want to live in a beautiful suburban neighborhood in Texas? Jump in the back of my pickup truck. I'll take you right in. It's going to be great. I'm your friend. No. There's money exchanged. There are illicit favors exchanged. There is indentured servitude within the realm of prostitution, human trafficking of minors, boys, girls. There's also the trafficking of narcotics, fentanyl. There's a lot of organized crime, a lot of mafia activity that's happening, and these coyotes are the transporters of this. And so now we're looking into, does Planned Parenthood have involvement in that? And then also, are there policies supporting DEI, which is on the way out? Thanks be to God. So I think that's a win. I know that Trump is not batting 1,000. I know he's not 100% on all the issues, particularly IVF. I've done, I think, 2 shows on that already. Some people who are rah, MAGA, Trump all the way, they get kind of upset with me. They say, hey, you can't criticize. He's our guy. And I say, no, I'm an adult. He's an adult. We can have conversations. And then there's other people who say, I can't believe you're saying 1 or 2 positive things about Trump. Don't you know about his past? Don't you know about this? Don't you know he's not consistently pro-life? And I say, yes. Right. I'm just trying to have an adult conversation on these topics. I'll take the wins where I see the wins. Where there's losses, I'll address them, see how we can be better, how we can be more influential. I also want to talk today about a situation in Oakland, California, where the Institute of Christ the King Sovereign Priest is losing their presence. They've been, I don't know what the right word is, disinvited by the bishop. So I want to look at that today. But before I do, I want to honor today's sponsor, and it's one of my favorite sponsors. It's Field of Greens. I try to eat healthy. I'm into exercise, running, walking, lifting, etc. I try to watch what I eat, but occasionally you fall off the wagon, you eat something unhealthy, and that's where Field of Greens comes in for me. In fact, yesterday I was really tanked. I had been up late the night before. We had a very busy weekend. It was my birthday. We had 2 soccer games. We were godparents for a baptism. We went to a gala. It was just boom, boom, boom. And I was exhausted yesterday. I said, you know what? I'll take some Field of Greens. I took some Field of Greens. Within an hour, I felt a boost of energy. I'm not being dishonest. All right. This really happened. I was like, that's amazing. It could have been something else, but I took the Field of Greens. Within an hour, I felt great. I did yesterday's show. It was a high energy, great show. Lots of people enjoyed it. So I definitely get a health benefit from it. I get a boost. It's different from caffeine. So what is Field of Greens? It's a delicious glass of nutritional armor for your body. It contains fruits and vegetables that are carefully selected by doctors for specific health benefits, such as heart health, lungs, kidneys, your metabolism, even a healthy weight. And I love the energy I get with it. Usually I do it in the morning. Yesterday I did it later in the day. But most of all, I love the confidence that even if I have a cheat day or I eat something unhealthy, I can enjoy it guilt-free because I have healthy fruits and vegetables concentrated, prepared by doctors in a formula that is Field of Greens. It's daily nutrition. And Field of Greens makes a promise. Your doctor will notice your improved health or you get your money back. And I really like the strawberry lemonade. It comes out green because it's fruits and vegetables, but it tastes like strawberry lemonade. Fantastic. So if you want to experience it, more energy, less slumps in the afternoon, better diet, better nutrition, let me help you get started. You get a discount, 20% off your first order. Use promo code TM. Those are my initials, TM. You can go to fieldofgreens.com, use promo code TM, 20% off your order, or you can go to fieldofgreens.com, fieldofgreens.com, and use promo code TM to get 20% off. You can also use the link in the show notes or in the pinned comment. Check it out, Field of Greens. This is something that I believe in. I keep one here. I keep one in the kitchen. I keep one at my farm. I got Field of Greens everywhere. Check it out. All right, so I just mentioned that in Oakland, there's a situation going on where the Institute of Christ the King, and I love Institute of Christ the King. We don't have it here in Texas. All right, we have Fraternity of St. Peter, we have SSPX, we have some diocesan options, but Institute of Christ the King is not part of my trad experience. However, when I travel, I've been to Institute of Christ the King masses all over the world. Sadly, there is a Institute of Christ the King traditional Latin Mass apostolate in Oakland that will be, it looks like, I don't know if it's going to be shutting down, but the Institute of Christ the King will not be there. Bishop Michael Barber, S.J., he's a Jesuit, the Bishop of Oakland, has announced that on April 20th, effective April 20th, the Institute of Christ the King, which has been in the diocese for 20 years, will leave. Now, I found it interesting that Bishop Barber, who is a Jesuit, stated that he has enough priests who can celebrate the traditional Latin Mass. So it seems that the traditional Latin Mass will continue. Here's the statement. Since the Oakland Diocese has enough properly trained clergy to provide the traditional Latin Mass for the faithful, Bishop Barber has requested the Institute of Christ the King Sovereign Priest to leave St. Margaret Mary, that's the parish, to find a more suitable setting for their apostolate. So, goes on here, I am grateful to the Institute of Christ the King Sovereign Priest for serving the needs of the traditional Latin Mass community in the Diocese of Oakland since 2005, says the bishop. We now have more than enough diocesan priests able to fulfill this very worthy spiritual need. So that is a sad moment. Bishop Barber is a Jesuit. You might be ready to throw a tomato already. LifeSite News did report that Bishop Barber supported Archbishop Corleone when he said that Nancy Pelosi could not receive communion due to her pro-abortion positions and policies. So it seems that Barber backed Corleone in one of Corleone's most controversial things. Also, Bishop Barber partnered with Archbishop Corleone on a statement. I believe it was on see here. It had something to do with gender. Let me see here. Yeah, here we go. In 2023, Bishop Barber also penned a statement, a pastoral letter condemning gender ideology. So that's a good thing. I think Bishop Barber has done a couple good things. Before you say, oh, he's a Jesuit, let's throw some tomatoes. I do like Institute of Christ the King, and I'm not sure why they're leaving. And there could be many reasons. It could be financial. It could have to do with real estate. It could have to do with the Institute of Christ the King having apostolates elsewhere. I don't know all the details. I'm not TMZ gossip of diocesan structuring. So I honestly don't know. But I do think it is significant. And I did bring it up because I wanted to address an element in traditional Catholicism that I've come to understand over the years. So my wife and I and our kids have been attending a traditional Latin Mass since 2010. So we've been doing this for 15 years. I realize there are giants in the world like Michael Matt, who's been doing it since he was a child. Other people, we stand on their shoulders and we recognize them, we praise them, we honor them. But I've been doing this for 15 years, and I've noticed there's an interesting tension in diocesan traditional Latin Masses, Fraternity of St. Peter, Institute of Christ the King. That's my experience. This doesn't really apply to SSPX for obvious reasons. But it is the situation where you have a dynamic Latin Mass parish with lots of confession times, lots of availability for baptizing babies quickly, like within a week of birth, get your baby baptized. Beautiful Mass, beautiful choirs. The Institute of Christ the King, if you don't know, really aesthetically does it the best. All right, you go to a high Mass, a solemn high Mass. I went to one with Harrison Butker. Joe and I went with Harrison's family on December 8th, Feast of the Immaculate Conception in Kansas City, Institute of Christ the King. You know, so reverent, so beautiful. Your heart just opens up to the beauty of holiness. And you really do feel like, the ceiling of the place is ripped off and heaven and earth come together. Lift up your hearts. We lift them up to the Lord. Like there is that transcendent merging of heaven and earth. And the Institute of Christ the King does that so well. But when that's the case with the Fraternity of St. Peter, even with the SSPX, all these people flock to these dynamic traditional parishes. And wouldn't you know it, the people who flock to traditional parishes in Latin Mass often are successful people with a lot of money. If this isn't always true, but there are a lot of people who live a very intentional, ordered life. They are attracted to the Latin Mass because it's intentional, it's ordered, it's beautiful. And oftentimes people who are very intentional and ordered often run a business or they're an entrepreneur, something like that. And so there's money there. And so this is what creates this tension with the diocese and with these traditional parishes, and that is money flowing in to a traditional parish, and then that tension with other parishes that are nearby or with the diocese. I'm not saying that this Institute of Christ the King situation has to do with money. I just know that there is a tension when you start seeing an influx and you see birth rates up in traditional parishes, baptismal rates, confirmation rates, donations, vocation rates going up. The traditional Latin Mass parishes are very fervent, very alive, right? They have good numbers, not just in the spiritual sense, but good numbers on paper. That can cause jealousy in the diocese. That can cause comparisons. And that's just sort of something going on in the background. I think when you're new to the traditional Latin Mass, you're just overwhelmed, you should be, of the liturgy, of the reverence, of the sacraments, the devotion, rediscovering your faith all over again. But as you're around a little bit longer, you start to understand some of the peripheral things. And so I wanted to bring that up. Again, I'm not making any accusations whatsoever. I'm just saying sometimes when you look at the diocese, the bishop, sometimes a new bishop comes in And he looks at everything going on. He says, no, I don't think we want this traditional order here. Go somewhere else. We've been seeing that in Tyler, Texas. But they took Bishop Strickland out. They had a lot of traditional religious orders, religious priests. They've kind of been shown the door over the last several months and are moving on to other apostolates. It is what it is. It is what it is. I'm going to go to your comments and questions. First off, I want to hear, do you think Trump is rolling the snowball and collecting momentum for good pro-life victories? Do you not trust him at all? Love to hear your thoughts on that. Love to hear your thoughts on the Institute of Christ the King and Oakland. So I'm going to open up the live chat. I'll start with the super chats first. And before I do, I'm going to introduce today's second sponsor, and that is American Financing. As you know, life is getting more expensive. I certainly feel that as a father with 8 children. Inflation is hitting hard. And if you still have credit card balances with something like 20% interest rates, which is just usurious, and you have a mortgage untouched, you're ignoring one thing that could help you get out of debt, and that is your home. So I don't know your exact situation, but if you're like thousands of homeowners, American Financing talks to people every month. And if you're struggling to keep up, American Financing can help you. Would you trade 10 minutes for a shot at saving an average of $800 a single month? Because that's exactly what homeowners are doing when they call American Financing. It's a simple, no obligation, and it could change everything for you and help you as you fight these times that we're in right now with inflation. They have a team of salary-based mortgage consultants, so there isn't any incentive to put you in a loan that doesn't make sense for you and your family. That's the important thing, for your family. There's also no upfront fees, so you can find out how much you can save. So don't wait. Call American Financing today and start feeling that relief at 866-890-4844. That's 866-890-4844, or visit americanfinancing.net/Marshall today. You can find out more with a simple 10-minute phone call, or go to americanfinancing.net/Marshall. And of course, tell them you heard about their services from the Dr. Taylor Marshall podcast. Thank you, American Financing. All right, we're going to jump into your comments and to your questions. I'll address the super chats, and then we'll go into the general. iCatholic Mobile says, at the March for Personhood of the Unburned, we had a great speech on how until we preach against birth control, we can never hope to win on abortion. Father Nix has a great talk on this, as did the canons and the SSPX priests we love. Yeah, great point. If you believe in contraception, the Catholic Church is against contraception. If you believe in condoms or the birth control pill, that's going to be the solution, you think. Well, they fail. They're not 100%. So you're having illicit relations, or maybe you're having illicit relations, but you don't want a baby. That's disordered. And then your preferred contraceptive fails. Now there's a pregnancy. What's the next temptation? The next temptation is to move into abortion, because it's an unwanted pregnancy. You see, God wants us to only have relations within the sacrament of matrimony. And within the sacrament of matrimony, you make vows to your spouse. I will never leave you. I will never forsake you. Whether you get sick, whether we become poor, whether we become ugly, whether we become maimed, whether we become the most beautiful elderly people of all time, whether we become famously wealthy and no matter what, we're staying together in the bond of holy matrimony. And in that bond, you also vow to be open to the procreation and education of children. It's part of the deal. You can't get married and say, I don't want kids. The word matrimony contains the word matri in Latin, which means mother, and munus, which means gift. Matrimony is the gift of motherhood. If you're not going to have kids, not going to be a mother in matrimony, you're not really doing sacred matrimony. So we have to get married. We have to be open to children. I don't want to hear any of this, hey, let's get married and do NFP for 3 or 4 years. No. If you're not ready to have kids, you're not ready to be married. Can I get an amen if you agree? Like the video, right? It's the wrong mindset, all right? When you get married, you're saying, I love you. I'm making vows to God and to you, and I want to create new people with you. That's it. And then the husband hustle, works, makes income the best he can so that the wife, if it's possible, can stay home, nurture that child, educate that child, and then here comes another baby, and so on and so forth. Be fruitful and multiply. What I'm saying right now is controversial. It's scandalous. I'm sure there's people like, oh, what a misogynist, what an anti-feminist, what a patriarchal jerk. But this was Catholicism. This is Catholicism. But this is how everybody thought up until the 1950s. You get married, you have babies. Dad goes to work. You know, you buy milk, you buy bread, buy some meat, have a sit-down family meal. You know, you didn't have to have, a boat and 5 cars and a remote vacation place and all that. You had your family. Family was important. If you agree with me, hit the thumbs up. Share this video on X. Share this video on Facebook. And if you're new, please subscribe to the Dr. Taylor Marshall podcast. Over 1 million subscribers. Love to have you week after week. Thank you for your super chat, iCatholic. Next super chat coming in is Robert Lee. He says, the government should not be in the business of funding things like Planned Parenthood. The government should fund projects that promote family. Thank you, Robert Lee. I have a new book coming out. There's a whole chapter on how the government should be subsidizing and helping families procreate and educate their children. That is what benefits America. That is what benefits a nation. Killing the unborn does not accomplish that. You kill the unborn, you contracept, and then what do? Oh, there are not enough people. We got to bring in all these other people, bring in the Muslims, bring in all these people. So we have people. No, this is all wrong. It's all backwards. This is the devil. All right. So we need our countries to say, what do we invest in? We invest in family. That's part of my new book coming out. I don't think I've revealed the title yet, but I'll be talking a lot more about that. Robert Lee is another super chat. My crazy idea is that TLM should be offered in all cathedrals and all parishes that has a priest and is properly trained. Let the parishioners decide. Robert Lee, I disagree with you. Do not let the parishioners decide. I think the Pope should come in. On day one, he gets out a sheet of paper like this. He writes out a motu proprio. The Pope writes out a motu proprio that says something like this. Effective immediately, every priest and bishop of the Catholic Church not only can, but should celebrate the Mass according to the books of 1930 to 1962, with the preferred text being, I think I would probably put here 1945. But I realize all those books aren't out yet. So I'm going to give some laxity as Pope. Paragraph 2. I hereby command all cardinals of the Holy Roman Church to celebrate exclusively the traditional Latin Mass to show their solidarity with the Apostolic See of Rome. Any cardinal who does not immediately begin celebrating the traditional Latin Mass is removed from the Sacred College of Cardinals. This is cool because you get the cardinals saying the Latin Mass, and then if any of them don't do it, then you sweep them out of the College of Cardinals. Right? Isn't that brilliant? Right? 2 for 1 right there. Then I would write, in order for cathedrals to show their solidarity with the Holy See of Rome, every cathedral must be celebrating the traditional Latin Mass. Next paragraph. I hereby declare that all seminarians must be prepared to celebrate only the traditional Latin Mass. I would just write these things down. Boom, boom, boom. And at the bottom of the page, I'd sign Pope Leo the 14th. And then I'd hit send. And it would be awesome. So I don't think that you give the parishioners the decision. You're the Pope. You're the daddy. You set the rules of the house. All right, Robert Lee has another super chat. Man, Robert Lee's dropping them super chats. Thank you, Robert Lee. $10 super chat. Nice. I've noticed that parishes that offer the TLM traditional liturgies do not have problems like lack of altar boys, lack of parishioner involvement, lack of money. 100%. I've noticed the same thing. Now, often traditional Latin masses are placed in bad neighborhoods, poor neighborhoods, remote areas. I think that's just part of the strategy to sort of shadow resist the traditional Latin Mass, but it grows still. But yeah, you see heavy involvement because people are invested in it. People believe. There's polls and surveys that show that people that attend the traditional Latin Mass do attend every Sunday and every holy day of obligation for the most part. In the Novus Ordo, it's like under 20%. There is a difference. So when you get people who are all in, guess what? They put money in the basket. They volunteer. They say, hey, I own a gardening company. I'm going to come and I'm going to redo all the flower beds. We're going to put in new trees. We're going to make this place look legit. You have people who are painters and like, hey, we're going to come in. We're going to paint the facilities. We're going to give this place a lift. Plumbers, hey, we're going to redo the bathrooms. People like, hey, Father, we need a beautiful chalice and ciborium. And Father says, yeah, we do. And they say, I'll buy it. Let's get a gold one. We need new vestments. Someone will say, hey, my mother just died. We need a nice requiem. And the priest says, well, we have requiem vestments, but they're kind of threadbare. And he says, you know what? I'll buy a whole solemn set, black requiem. And while I'm at it, I'll buy a gold, I'll buy a red, I'll buy a green, I'll buy a violet. Let's go ahead and take care of this. That's how people are when they believe this stuff. And you get results. If you agree, like the video, subscribe. All right, I'm going in. That's the last super chat for now. I'm going to go into your live general chat. Leo Grande says, you're starting to sound like the Pharisees that hated Jesus. Wow. Leo Grande. That hurts, bro. Hurts. Hits. Hurtful. I'm interested, Leo Grande. Tell me how I sound like the Pharisees that hated Jesus. What did I say today? What did I say today that made me a Pharisaical person who hates Jesus? Third secret of Fatima. Do you think President Trump will convert to Catholicism? I hope so. I pray for it. I hope. Yes, I pray for his conversion. 100%. It's definitely part of my prayers. I pray for him to convert. I think it'd be fantastic. Probably no one believed Constantine would convert, and he did. You know, we got to pray. We got to fast. Constantine, speaking of Constantine 128 says, what is your opinion on parishes that sometimes hold TLM, but then also offer a more traditional version of the Novus Ordo? Here in Munich, they do this to introduce more people to traditional worship. As you know, a pretty hardliner on the traditional Latin Mass. It's not, for me, it's not just about the Latin. It's about the rubrics. It's about the words. It's about the prayers. And if you put the traditional Latin Mass and you translate it into English and you put the Novus Ordo in English and you put them side by side and you do a comparative study, which I've done many times, and you go through the whole thing, you'll notice startling differences in the prayers. That's one element. The other element is communion on the hand, altar girls, felt banners, unusual music, unusual architecture. That's maybe a different category. I really think we just need to return to the Roman patrimony, the Roman tradition of all 7 sacraments and the divine office and the exorcisms. It was never broken. It didn't need to be fixed. It was never broken. I don't want to hear anybody say, but Taylor, like, no one knew what was going on. It's like they say no one knew what was going on. They're just these sheeple who are kneeling in the pews. But let me tell you, they all went to Mass on Sundays. They showed up on the holy days. If you asked them, do you believe in transubstantiation? They said, oh, yeah, we believe in transubstantiation. Do they get their babies baptized? Yes. Did they get married in the church? Yes. Now everything's is in English. It's in Spanish. It's in vernacular. Everybody can understand. And look, people are living together. They're not getting married in the church. They're not baptizing their babies. Priests are leaving the priesthood at record numbers. People trying to get divorces. People trying to get annulments. No more nuns. Survey people in the pews. Do you believe in transubstantiation? Like, nah, I think it's a symbol. This is where we're at. This whole idea that if you put it in vernacular, everyone's faith in the church is going to be even better is not necessarily the case. In fact, it kind of robs people of the mystery and of the transcendent. Did what's his name ever say why I'm a Pharisee? Leo, what was his name? Leo? Where's Leo? Dan, if you find Leo saying why that I sound like a Pharisee who hated Jesus, let me know. John Pork says, last Sunday, a Franciscan priest at my parish left the gospel book on the ground after reading, and throughout the entire homily, take a guess on whether it was a TLM or Novus Ordo. Yeah, listen, people. When you have a Bible, you treat the Bible reverently. We're Catholics, all right? You don't use a Bible as a coaster. You don't use a missal as a coaster or as a footstool. You know, I hate to compare us to Muslims, Mohammedans, like Cardinal Dolan, but Mohammedans will never put the Quran on the floor. It's their sacred book. I would never take a statue of Mary and just sort of lay it down on the dirt, like falling over. That's disrespectful. I would never take a picture of your mother and put it face down on the ground. That's disrespectful. So why don't we show some respect for the Holy Bible? The priest, after all, when he reads the gospel, he's supposed to kiss the gospel book to show reverence to the word of God. So I don't understand why a Franciscan priest would put the gospels or the Bible on the ground. After all, when they read the gospels, we stand up to show reverence to the gospels, and the priest kisses the gospel. So yeah, we got to show reverence to statues, to the cross, to the crucifix, to the sacred vessels. Lay people are not supposed to touch the sacred vessels. Reverence for the Eucharist. We're not really supposed to touch the Eucharist. The sacred vestments. I mean, we got to be legit, man. JY says, my children were the only kids that noticed their CCD teaching were teaching heresy. Isn't this sad? I mean, this is one reason why I started the new St. Thomas Institute. So many people say, I went through RCIA and I was taught that contraception's okay. Or I went through RCIA and I was taught you don't need to be baptized to be justified and saved. All religions are worthy. People said, my kid went to CCD. At the end of it, they didn't even know the 10 Commandments, the Creed, the Our Father, the Hail Mary. They never taught this. They just did like finger painting of what you think God looks like. So we need catechesis. If you didn't receive good catechesis, that's probably not your fault. You may have grown up in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s. So, you need to go deeper. If you want to go deeper, I have a solution for you. It's called the New St. Thomas Institute. I have 10 courses. I'll be building out a new course this summer on Mariology, on the Blessed Virgin Mary. That's coming soon. We had a meeting about it this morning, and I'm very excited about that. So I'll go ahead and pre-announce that. We have a course on the Latin Mass. We have a course on the Old Testament, New Testament, philosophy, Catholic theology, apologetics. It's all there. It's me teaching you as your professor online. We have a Lenten course that we're doing right now. True, we're over halfway through Lent, but if you want to jump in on our Lent course, you can do that as well. You can get started today for $1. There's a link. You have to use the link here on YouTube in the show notes. That's the link that'll get you started for $1. And you can take all 10 courses, and you'll get our Bible Catholic cheat sheet and our reading list and how to read the Bible in a year and how to do the 33-day consecration. So much is there, and it's all at your pace. We're not going to force you. We're not going to make you sign a contract. We're not going to say you have to do this. If you want to take 5 years and do it, great. If you want to take 5 weeks and do it, great. And we have parents using it for teaching their kids their theology. We have grandparents using it to teach themselves. We've got lawyers, doctors, seminarians, nuns, priests, deacons. It's a great community. So check it out at nsti.com. That's New St. Thomas Institute. We're trying to bring St. Thomas to a new context. That is our fallen modern world. So go to nsti.com, New St. Thomas Institute, or use that special link for the $1 promo below me in YouTube. Albe Bell, cows in the Vatican garden. Absolutely. If I were Pope, I would bring in some Angus cows in the Vatican garden. Be amazing. I like cows. There's nothing more relaxing and chill than in the morning, get a cup of coffee, maybe a little Robusto cigar, maybe. Go out with the cows, sit in a chair and chill with the cows. Talk with the cows. You know, my calves are almost a year old. They know me now. They're not, when they were little, they were always freaked out around me because they're babies. Now they come up, smell me, put their wet nose on the back of my hand, rub their head on my arm. So chill. So yeah, I mean, if I were the Pope, I'd have to have cows in the Vatican. Be awesome. John Pork says, a month ago, I was taught by a Franciscan priest in OCIA. That's the new name for RCIA, by the way. That the papacy was man-made and not instituted by Christ, and that there is no need to convert Protestants to the Catholic faith. Yeah, that's just straight up heresy. That Franciscan priest should be he should be admonished to renounce his error. And if he doesn't announce his error, he should just be thrown out. He's a Protestant, you know? And it's time that we have a pope who just sends these people packing. You know? If you teach that to people who are trying to become Catholic, you get nothing. Well, yeah, but Taylor, like they need like healthcare and but no, you're out. Go work at Walmart. You know, go work at Panda Express, Franciscan priest. We don't need you in here telling lies about the Catholic Church. You're out. You're done. John Port, if this is what you're hearing in OCIA, I would encourage you to go find a traditional Latin Mass parish, if you have one by you, and seek private reception into the church. Private reception is not the OCIA. You meet with the priest 1 or 2 times. He recommends books. He teaches you, and then he just receives you into the church privately. Perfectly normal way. That's how I came into the Catholic Church. That's how thousands of people come into the Catholic Church. Unfortunately, OCIA has kind of become like a sausage factory. They sort of push everybody in there, and it kind of just out comes the end, right? The final product, but there's not a lot of quality control in the OCIA, RCIA methods. And a lot of times you have lay people who are misguided teaching that class when it should be the priest. Gail says, go to TLM. Amen. David says, baby cows are so cute. You better believe it. I mean, y'all want to see some of my cows? Maybe I'll show y'all some cows. I just love cows. I'll do some more comments while I pull up. John Pork, I could also see his polo shirt from underneath his habit. I don't know if there's a rule against that. I've seen it too. And I don't like it. Let me see if this is a good pic. Oh, yeah, this is great. I'm going to show you all this pic. You're going to love it. Give it a moment to transfer. Here it is. The Catechism of Trent. I'm saving to give him for after Easter. Yes, read the Catechism of Trent. Here it is. Okay, you need to go online and you need to Google search Taylor Marshall Happy Meal. Say what? Go to search Taylor Marshall Happy Meal. I have created a Happy Meal combo for you. It's the books and resources and Bibles and catechisms that I think people need. My opinion as a dad on a webcam. Taylor Marshall Happy Meal. Just search it, find it. And one of the books on there is Catechism of the Council of Trent. Cannot recommend it enough. I like this version. It's the orange version. I believe it's Baronius. Yeah, it's Baronius. It's beautiful. Love it. Want some, get some. Council of Trent. All right, y'all want to see some cows? Let's see if this works here. Get along, little doggies. Let's go. Look at that. Look at the little calves skipping around. So pretty. Those are my mama calves. Oh, there in the middle is the longhorn. Here, let me make this bigger. You can see the longhorn. Here we go. Look at that. Look at those cute little calves. Look at that longhorn right there. That's No Way Jose. His name is No Way Jose. Look at those little calves skipping and jumping. So cute. That's it right there. Now you know. How do I get back? Now you know why I love cows. I just love cows. How come I can't get this off? Go away. Oh, here we go. I'm back. Cows. They're better than dogs. I don't know if they're smarter than dogs. I have dogs. My dogs are pretty smart. I think cows are maybe just a little less smart. So, yeah. And I'm trying to figure out how to sell all this meat. I got all this meat and I want to package it and I want to be able to sell it, y'all, because my meat has no hormones, no vaccines, no corn, no grain. All these cows, all they eat is water out of a spring, natural spring water, and they eat grass. And there's no pesticides, no fertilizer on the land. This is as natural and as organic you can get as a cow. I want to sell it, but I just don't have the time or the resources to like slaughter the cows, package the cows, take the orders, send them to you, dry ice. It's a bit overwhelming for me right now. So I'm trying to figure it out, but I just love cows. Eugenia says we have them in Kansas. So awesome. Agree. Mater Dolorosa, do you get raw milk? So these cows are not really domesticated for milk. I have one cow. Her name is Georgia, and she's my best friend of all the cows. She's very friendly. She lets me rub on her head and all that. And I can reach down and grab her udder and squeeze out milk. She's not wild about it. But I think if I pursued it, maybe. But no, we don't really do the milk because if you milk, you have to milk twice a day, morning and evening. And I just don't have the time to be a milkman, a milk person. I don't know what you call that. A milkmaid is a girl. What's a milkman is a guy who brings milk to your house. So I don't know. I don't have time to be a milkmaid. All right. So we don't do the milk. It'd be cool. I know people that do it, but you got to be committed. Like you can't take a week off. So, I'd buy it. Thank you. Daniel, our editor and moderator, he took a selfie of Georgia. Yeah, Daniel likes Georgia. Georgia's sweet. Actually, I might have a good picture. Kennedy Hall was in Texas. I didn't get to see him because it's a big state. But he got a cowboy hat and he was talking about how much, he loves Texas and cows and all that. Let's see if this works. Boom. I'm pretty sure that's Georgia right there. Isn't she pretty? She's red, bright eyes, beautiful eyes, that nose, healthy looking nose, healthy looking fur. She just, it's just awesome. I don't know how this show turned into a cow show, but Andrew says saw them off. No, I'm not going to saw off the horns. That's crazy. Jennifer says there will always be the Latin Mass, says quos primum. Exactly. You know, Mel Gibson makes this argument all the time. Quo primum, not quos, quo primum says, it's by Pius V, that a priest cannot be punished by saying the Tridentine traditional Latin Mass. It cannot be forbidden. Now, people debate, does this only apply to Pius V or does it apply for all time? I think it applies for all time. When I hear a Catholic priest, I hear this a lot from them. I was saying the Latin Mass. My bishop came in and said, I can't do it. I'm in trouble. I don't know what to do. I'm always like, just keep saying the Latin Mass. Quo primum. Pius V. Like, a papal document is more important than the preferences of your bishop. That's my take. Maybe I'm wrong. That's my take. But my father had cows. I would take them off the land. Their eyes have huge eyelashes. They're adorable. I know. Let's see. You can't really see her eyelashes, but yeah, they have gray. And the babies, the calves, have big old eyelashes. Beautiful. And the ones that have Hereford father, they have a whiter face and they have these big white eyelashes coming up. So, pretty cool. JC says, Salve Maria, doctor from Argentina. I can tell you how many abortions happen every single day here. Law, something about this, but a town of 100,000 has a huge public hospital and every single day has an assistant. Wow. So I'm assuming this is Argentina. Daily happening in Argentina, which is a Catholic country, traditionally, historically, you know. Let's see. See, everybody's talking about cows now. Maybe I should just, at the beginning of today's show, I said, I'm giving up podcasting. And I said, April Fools. It's April 1st. Maybe I should that'd be kind of fun, actually. No more shows about Vatican, St. Gallen Mafia. No more shows about Pope Francis. I just come on here every day and I just talk about cows. I could feature a new cow every day. Like, here's Georgia. Georgia's so sweet. She gave birth to a beautiful calf. I think, Georgia gave birth to a calf girl. So here's Georgia's calf, her heifer calf. Very, very cute, very pretty. Today, Georgia ate grass. And she drank spring water. And she followed me around. And that'd be the podcast. I don't know if people would watch that. Fimbley says cows are cool. Third Secret Fabin says, I saw Kennedy Hall in San Antonio at Sanctus Ranch. He was awesome. That's great. That's great. San Antonio, super place. Jeremiah says, asking for a friend, what do you do if you want to be Catholic, but your spouse does not? You become Catholic. This has been done tens, hundreds, millions, thousands of times over 2,000 years. If you want to be Catholic and your spouse does not want to become Catholic, you become Catholic. That's it. God first. God first. We pray for you, Jeremiah. I know it's hard. I know it's difficult. It's easy for me to say because my wife and I were Protestant. I was a Protestant minister. My wife and I were pretty much in sync. She was maybe a little ahead of me on the Catholic question, but we were in sync and we came in to the Catholic Church on the same day. That was great. I know it's not always the case, but I would say teach your spouse about Catholicism, try to live it, but definitely become Catholic. At least cows are sinless. Yeah, I mean, they're cool. Got to watch out with the bulls, though. Bulls will get aggressive with you. My friend Clay Walker, country singer, he said, don't ever turn your back on a bull, even if he's your best friend bull who eats right out of your hand, who lets you rub his head and all that. Never turn your back on a bull. Sometimes something just hits in them, a little testosterone bump or something, and they'll just run into you, and you'll have problems. All right, last question. Oh, we got super chats. My goodness sakes. Super chats. Robert Lee. Back with the super chat. I'm almost 40, so I don't know life pre-Vatican II, but from everything that I see, it has been good for the laity, but took a dump on priests and religious orders. I think it's bad for everybody. I think it's bad for everybody. You know, Father Ripperger says the laity sort of went along with it. They didn't like it, but they're like, wait, we can eat meat on Friday and we can get annulments. And there's kind of like these goodies that were thrown out at the lay people. You know, it's really hard being Catholic in America and in the West. Like, hey, you can eat meat on Friday and you can get an annulment. And if you're a priest, you want to leave the priesthood, or a nun, you want to leave the nunnery, we got those options too. And people were kind of like, Novus Ordo is kind of weird, but, you know, they got candy, so I'll eat out of that. Robert Lee also says, imagine we brought back friars and nuns teaching in Catholic schools and teaching catechism. Catholic school would be affordable for sure, 100%. But what do? They got rid of the orders. They said, hey, Sister Rita, wear this ugly pantsuit and stop wearing the veil and get a Karen haircut, and go around and be a Karen and tell people to vote for the Democrats. And that's what they did. It's horrible. You know, we got to get back to it. All right. How do you get back to it? You pray your rosary every single day. You pray your rosary every day. If you're sick, you pray your rosary. If you're tired, you pray your rosary. If it's raining outside, you pray your rosary. If it's before Mass, you pray your rosary. If it's during Mass, I pray the rosary during Mass. People are going to throw tomatoes, don't care. After Mass, pray the rosary. Can't sleep at night? Pray the rosary. Pray the rosary every day, or not on the team. The rosary, it's the weapon. It's the battle ram of the new covenant. All right. Excellent. All right. Check out our sponsors, Field of Greens, American Financing, New St. Thomas Institute, and maybe I'll think about just talking about cows. Would y'all prefer that? I just talk about cows. You know, no more theology. Just, hey, here's a new cow. That'd be great. All right. Well, until next time, remember our Lord Jesus Christ says you're the light of the world and the salt of the earth. So go out there and be salty. God bless. Godspeed. Hope you're having a great Lent.